Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Indie Creative Comics Podcast, where we are all about independent comics. I'm one of your hosts, Angel, with John Pepe.
How's it going, Angel?
Well, it's not Monday.
It's not Monday. It's Thursday.
Yes, the day after New Comic Book Day, which I think
Yes.
makes more sense.
It does because the comics are fresh. They're like fresh out of the oven. They have the new comic smell. I'm not saying they're stale on Mondays, but it's cool to do it the day after they are released. Gets people who watch the show to get to their shop over the weekend and pick up these comics while they're still on the shelf. Because a lot of times, by the time we review them, a lot of them sold out these books too, because indie comics are really hot again, and people are definitely buying them in droves, which is great.
Well, they're paying
most-
$45 on eBay.
Mostly because of us. I think
Yes.
mostly we brought it back.
I
But
agree. I think it is because of us.
yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny because when we started doing this, when it was an audio only, when we were too ugly to be on YouTube even, we would do it Thursday afternoons, and I always thought that
Correct.
was really fun. It was really good. Just again, the excitement of post New Comic Day, really is still there on Thursdays. So I was really happy that we decided to make this change. And 6 p.m. We're like must see TV. We're like NBC on Thursdays now. From
I
the
know.
90s. Yeah.
I know. It feels weird, but it feels sort of like good kind of weird.
Hmm.
I like it. Yeah. So if you're just joining us, John and this is episode 191. Dude, we're getting to that
Yes.
bicentennial really, really soon. Yeah, and so we put something up. I don't know if you guys can see it or if anyone can see it, but can you see it, John?
I
The poll up
can.
there?
Yeah, I see
wonder
this
how
in
it
the little
works.
corner there. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
if you
guess
want to
would you
participate
click
in the
on it
poll,
or yeah.
I guess I don't know if we can do it because it's our poll. So I guess only the participant can see it. Yeah, participate. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like we're going to be moving back to Thursday nights, just because it makes more sense. I mean, New Comic Book Day was yesterday. Just like you said, it's like fresh out of the oven kind of thing, and I love me some fresh baked bagels. So it kind of smells like that, especially when you get your comics. And this week was really, really big, bro. I mean, we've got 5 titles that we're going to be reviewing. I know there were a bunch more. It's just the amount of time that we have in a day or whatever it is going on in that. If you guys are just joining us, there is a poll up there. So if you see the poll, feel free to participate in the poll. If you guys have access to the chat on either Facebook or YouTube, feel free to ask a question, add a comment, whatever you want. We're here. So we're actually just going to go over a little bit of, I don't even know if I want to talk about this just because it's just like rumors and BS stuff. But I was reading it and I was like, so I watch and listen to Rob Liefeld's podcast, right? And
Observations. I love the
dude,
title.
yeah, sometimes he's just like really calm, and then sometimes he's just like over the top, but he's excitable and he's really animated when he speaks, really passionate about an industry. I mean, he's been doing it since forever. He was in a freaking Levi's commercial with comics and stuff like that. He did a bunch of stuff with Stan Lee when Stan Lee used to interview the artist live and have them talk through their process and stuff like that. So he started really, really young. I think he was the youngest of the Image partners because I think he started when he was like 17 or something when he got into the business, which is crazy. It's insane. I mean, you're a kid and then you're working full time in comics, and here he is, 40 years later, still doing his thing. Working on Youngblood, and I have to give him credit because he's keeping himself relevant not just by making comics but then also by adapting to the technology, right? Which is he's had the podcast. He was like us where it was just audio and you couldn't see him at all, and now he's crossed over. He's on YouTube and stuff like that. He's on Whatnot. He's on TikTok. He's on everything. Pretty sure he has like a little small army or at least one person helping him out with the tech stuff, but he's keeping himself relevant. And so I'm reading articles online and I just saw the thing that popped out where there's sort of like this feud, I guess, or gossip feud of somebody had written something in regards to Bendis's run on Ultimate
I
Spider-Man. Did you
saw
see that?
something. I saw something about this. Yeah. I guess I happened to see a very lengthy post by Gail Simone, but well worth the read because she kind of says she heard about what was going on with this Bendis situation, and she just wanted to relate her experience with him, and it was all very positive stuff, because back in the early 2000s, I mean, he was the indie comic superstar who broke through to the mainstream.
Right.
So, but yeah, so I've always kind of riffed on Bendis because I really love Bendis's, pre Marvel work, such as
I'm gonna stop you for a second, John.
yeah.
Absolutely, it was one of these books that I picked up reluctantly because usually like art is one of the things that grabs me, and it was so out there. It reminded me of like Martian Manhunter art, where it was just all like discombobulated and stuff like that. And I'm not, it's not. I mean, it's all subjective, right? But when I picked it up and I read it, holy crap, that story's so good. I think it's on issue 3 now, and it still has me. So if you've not read Spirit of Shadows, yeah, pick it up.
Check it out. I think it's
really that good.
I think it's a 5-issue, and that art really pops. I think I said when we reviewed it, is as if they were able to figure out how to put a black light inside the page.
Yeah.
So that was a great shout out to Spirit of the Shadows, John. Also, John, it was good seeing you at the shop yesterday. Always a pleasure. So Bendis, I always loved, Torso, Jinx, all that stuff that he did on his own as an independent. Hey, Quentin. and then definitely was there with Powers, and then when he went and started doing Ultimate Spider-Man and things like that, I would say Bendis has definitely lost that new comic smell, that new Bendis smell over the last 25 years or so. He's still doing it. He brought Powers back. That's really cool. And he's done some stuff for DC since he left Marvel, and spearhead a lot of great storylines for Marvel. But my joke about Bendis was, he brought us the decompressed storyline. And a prime example of that is taking an 11-page story that was in Amazing Fantasy 15 and stretching it out over 9 issues, and I think a lot of people give him flack for that. I do it jokingly because I still love that Ultimate Spider-Man run. It is the first 150 issues of that title are absolute brilliant,
right,
and wonderful, and a consistent team of writer and artist with Bendis and Bagley. But yeah, apparently it was so I guess it was Rob who said this about Bendis, that he just put a fresh coat of paint.
Well, somebody had paid a compliment to Bendis regarding it being probably one of the greatest runs.
Okay.
I mean, we got Miles Morales out of it, didn't we?
Eventually, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so so then Rob chimed in and said, no, it belongs to Ditko and Stan Lee. He just put a fresh coat of paint on, blah, 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 blah. And then it kind of just went back and forth online with a whole bunch of other creators, hopping online, as well as other people saying stuff. So I'm reading the whole thing, and I guess there's other people that were involved as well, but I'm reading most of the chain, and a lot of it happened on Threads, which is a different social media platform. And it's almost like you don't, I can see both sides, and I can see both sides of the argument, but it's like, why do we need it? But it all comes down to opinions, and then once the opinion's out there, then it's just back and forth. And I think one person was trying to justify saying, if you're a creator, that you really shouldn't be shitting on other creators. And then it went from Rob saying, well, it's my opinion, so I'm going to be able to voice my opinion. And then everybody goes ahead and starts crapping on Rob, on all the stuff about, him putting a fresh coat on Captain America, Deadpool being
was that what that was? Was that a fresh coat? I mean, I thought he just took turpentine and threw it on a really good existing painting.
But what's crazy though is that the whole Deadpool thing came back out with it being a derivative of Deathstroke.
Deathstroke.
Denying it is like, no, this is based off of Spider-Man, blah, blah, blah. Deathstroke's 100 pounds heavier. So it's just, I don't know. I'm so glad we stay out of all of that stuff, and we just read comics and give our 2 cents on
I will say to
wonderful industry.
To her credit, Gail did not say who it was that said that fresh coat of paint on Ditko and Lee's work there. So I thought that was really nice. She just kind of came to Brian's defense and talked about her experience with him, which was just very positive. Like she said, like she was the new kid at school and he was the cool kid, and he let her sit at the cool kid table, you
Yeah.
know, essentially in a nutshell. And so, so it is interesting. Yes, opinion. Everybody is entitled to an opinion, and you know, it depends on what your mileage is. Like Rob is aware that people don't like his style, and Rob has suffered and endured the slings and arrows of criticism and critique.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, Rob can also can dish it out, and Rob can take it. You know, he's
Yeah,
proved.
but you know what? I genuinely he doesn't care either. I mean, he's
Yeah,
sitting on a mountain of success that he's had since the 80s.
yeah,
I mean, he's been in the industry that long and he survived that long, so he has a reputation to back it up. And listen, we're talking about a medium that's truly subjective.
yeah,
Not everybody's gonna like it.
yep,
There's art that we don't, gravitate towards and stuff like that. So, and everybody has an opinion. It's just, it seems funny to me that, especially now with how easily accessible it is to be able to say something that it reaches so many people that it just spreads like
yeah,
wildfire. It's
yeah.
insane.
I love, like I said, I love Bendis. Do I love everything he's done? Absolutely not. I love Grant Morris. Do I love Morrison? Do I love everything he's
Yes.
done? Absolutely not. Mark Wade, same deal. Like every artist or writer that you love has done something that you don't like, and that is also an expression of how much you appreciate the stuff that they do that resonates with you. And it's almost like, oh, you could do better. I know you could do
Yeah,
better, right?
yeah, yeah.
Or it's just that's not my cup of tea, you know. And so it's just, so it is interesting though. Like people shouldn't really be piling on Rob for making a statement. He's not necessarily wrong, because that was the assignment. That was
Right.
the job.
Yeah.
Bendis was told, take this 11-page story and make it, stretch it out a year, and then we'll see from there how it goes.
Yes.
And it brought Marvel back. It was one of the things that brought Marvel back.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that out of all of this, the only person that didn't reply was Bendis.
Of course, of
So now you understand.
course.
And I think I think that's the way that it should be. I think, you throw your opinion out there, leave it alone. I
Yeah.
think people just back and forth, just want to one up and stuff like that. It's just crazy. So, all right, we spent way too much time on this because I'm reading it and I'm just like, oh my God, thank God we don't go through all this stuff. The only thing I wanted to mention, because we're 23 days away from Free Comic Book Day. I know we've been talking about it every week. We're just going to keep reminding you until we get to that day. I was reading another article about a store owner who is suggesting sort of like the going away of Free Comic Book Day
Yeah, like a
because,
why do we even need this anymore?
yeah, because
Yeah.
the benefits don't really outweigh that particular day. And it may be for certain comic shops that's just the way it is. And for
Sure.
other comic shops, it's a really successful day in regards to bringing in more revenue. I think the point was, or some of the points that they were trying to get across is, it doesn't bring in any new recurring people. It'll bring in people for that day just to kind of hoard whatever's free for that day. Oftentimes they come in, they just want the free stuff and they don't even, patronize the store to try to help them out or whatever it is. So there was a couple of things here. And now with the separation of, two different free comic book days, or two different titles, I should say, on the same day, it makes it a little bit more cumbersome for the retailer. There's a lot of back end stuff. And then obviously, most people are coming in. The content is free to them, but it's not free to the retailers. And I think what they were saying in the article is, after all of these years, you think you would incentivize the stores by maybe giving some of those comics away for free,
Mm.
and not the distributors but the publishers,
Hmm.
printing X amount of comic books. And the only it came into my mind, I was like, the only person that would probably even give that a thought would be Robert Kirkman.
Hmm.
Like, he would find a way to do something really special on that day,
Hmm.
not to drive just traffic for that day, but maybe a continuance of traffic. So I don't know. And I agree to some extent, because we've been doing the same thing for how many years now? Every free
Mm.
comic book day is the same.
Mm.
It's almost like you're just going through the motions each year, getting the books, packaging the books. The day comes, they come, they're gone. 90% of the people that come through that door, we don't see again, which is unfortunate. It's, how do you create an event that creates recurring customers?
Right, right. And and that's the thing, is like it's a how do you leverage that? How do you just, because sure, it's sort of like you have this one big fishing expedition. In retail, every day is a fishing expedition, sure,
Right.
because you open your doors and you were trying to lure people in with bait. And Free Comic Book Day is the sort of the yearly equivalent of going out and trolling for fish, right?
Yes.
And casting as wide a net as possible. And so you cast that wide net, and like you said, you pull in all these people, and let's say 5 to 10% of them become recurring customers.
Mm.
So that's great. Yes, you put a lot of effort out for this one day of the year, but if you're looking at what, if 5 to 10% yearly yield is not enough for what you're putting out for there, I understand that. I get that.
Yeah.
But if you didn't do that effort, right, what are you going to put your effort to get that 5 to 10%? Not to mention the fact that other 90%, of that 90%, 75 to 80% of that is still coming in and spending money in the store.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the great things about Free Comic Day. You don't have to spend a dime in the store to get your packet of free comics when you walk out the door. But most of the people, I would say 75 to 80% of the people that walk through the door are spending money.
Yes.
And they,
well, that's at least our store.
Yeah.
So each store is going to be different on their own. So it's overall whether or not they are spending the money. My concern is that, with the price point that comics are now, it makes it really difficult to make it, especially if you don't have extra income to spend on comics or whatever it is, or anything other than, putting food on the table and stuff like that. And what kid is coming in and spending $40, $50 each week on comics?
Right.
It's not the 70s. It's not the 80s. We're not, paying 75 cents, $1.25 for comics anymore. Yeah. So I think the thing that needs to happen, and hopefully somebody who has power is listening, something different needs to happen. One, we got to start regurgitating just content that's already out there. So for people that are coming in, we need something fresh. And a lot of times there are fresh comic books, but when it comes to the big two, it's just regurgitating what's going on. We need more indie stuff to be put in there as well. And then we need something that is going to be price-wise different afterwards. And that may be the type of paper you use. Why not make comics in newsprint and print them in like 5,000 copies for 10 cents a piece or 15 cents a piece, and mark those down and make that, like, do kids comics in newsprint. So that way they're more affordable and stuff like that, and start at a Free Comic Book Day launch, and then hopefully they can come in. If a kid's coming spending 75 cents on a comic book that only costs 15 cents to print, they can graduate to $4.99 when they're old enough. That's like, there needs to be a way to get the next generation of buyers in, but it's not going to be at the price point that we're at right now.
Yeah,
it's a challenge. So whoever's responsible for this day happening, publishers, I'm talking wise, they need to come up with something to say, okay, you know what? How do we make it different? How do we drive more traffic? How do we get the next generation in and keep them coming back?
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what next year looks like, because this year, again, it was very touch and go. So I think even a lot of publishers didn't quite have that lead time that you're used to preparing actually new content to launch events for free, that they usually do on Free Comic Day. Because I think the big two, what they're offering are just reprints of established stuff,
Yeah.
And and the other, hey, bootlegger. And so the and the other thing is, you reminded me of, remember back in the early 2000s, DC and Marvel both did the 10-cent comic initiative. There was Batman, the 10-cent adventure. There was the Fantastic Four, Mark Waid, Mike Wieringo launch. That was, I think, 9 cents or something like that. And I thought those were really cool. I thought that was great. I don't think it drew new people into the store necessarily, but it got regular readers to try some titles that they maybe weren't going to try unless it wasn't 10 cents. The drawback when they did those, though, was that they were just the lead-in issue. Like for the case for Batman, the 10-cent adventure, it was a lead-in issue to a multi-title crossover. Bruce Wayne Murderer, right? And so that, so I think that when you're doing it like that as a lead into an event, you see immediately the diminishing returns, because people want that 10-cent comic, and then they see it's a continue and they have to pay full price for all these other then it's like I think that was a bit of a turnoff at that time for them.
Right. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really goosed the sales.
I don't know. I listen.
But a consistent book of reprints,
right,
at a 75-cent price point on newsprint would be fantastic, because one of the biggest things for the young readers, the young kids, love the facsimile edition reprints.
Yes.
Which are just the old books with the old ads, but they love the feel of an old comic, but it's on nice new paper. Whatever. Do that. Do a run. Do X-Men, Claremont and Burns X-Men, right? When X-Men 97 season 2 starts, right? Do that as a 75-cent newsprint, reprinting each issue. Just for the kid, and that's something that they can consistently get for that low cost.
Yes.
Until that run is done.
Yeah. Or even listen, the whole Transformers He-Man model, where you have the toy first, right? What's on right now? Season 3 or season 4 of Invincible just launched. People watch that show on Amazon Prime. So you got the relaunch, not the relaunch, but you got the new season coming out, and people that have never read the book, the kids have never read that book. You can relaunch that entire series as reprints all the way through.
Thanks for checking in while you're at work, bootlegger. Keep us on in the background though.
Yes. So I think that's a great idea. You take these old runs and then just reprint them all the way through, starting on Free Comic Book Day, and then do it monthly. So hopefully you're getting these guys back every single month, or whatever it is. Whatever you guys need to do, publishers, just whoever's participating in Free Comic Book Day, you guys got to get together, come up with something to make it fresh, because we're doing the same thing every single year, and it's just like stamp, repeat, stamp, repeat. Dude, I can't, bro. I want to shoot myself sometimes. It's all good. All right, that's news and announcements for this week. If you're just joining us, John and I, what do we do?
Fixing the comic industry.
We are fixing the comic
one episode at a time.
But we're doing it from the indie point and the small creator and the creator-owned perspective. There's enough podcasts out there about the big two stuff, so if you want that, you got to go somewhere else. We're going to find the creators that are, and the stories that are out there that most people don't even know. So we did get books for this week, what was that, April 8th?
Yeah.
Our books came out. So yeah, we're gonna hop in. John and I pick up as many books as we can off the shelves. Small press, indie, and then we give our 2 cents on them. So we got about 5 books for this week. Really excited. We got some cool stuff. And then I'm gonna get out of the way. I know one of them is gonna be an IP book. Somebody's gonna be like, oh, it's IP, blah blah. Fuck off. This is from my childhood, so it gets a free pass in it. So we'll talk about it when we get there.
I swear that's not me saying that, but I get it.
Dynamite's doing some good shit, so they're just fucking with IP that of my childhood.
Yeah,
so I'm in it for the run.
And again, and to be clear, if this was DC or Marvel doing this book, he wouldn't be talking about it.
Nah, I'd just be reading it.
He'd be reading it.
Yeah, I mean,
he'd find a way to talk about it, but not reviewing it.
And we said this over and over. Just because we're just focusing on independent small press books doesn't mean we're not reading the big two. The Absolute Line has probably been one of the best things DC's done. Like, they're on fire lately.
Oh yeah.
They from the the 52 run was some titles were hit and misses, but it was a great run overall. Then what do we have after the new 52?
The Rebirth era.
The Rebirth era, and then out of that we got the death metal stuff from Scott Snyder. We got a whole bunch of side stuff. Then from there we go into DC All In.
And now we are leveled up leveled.
So DC All In is their main line, and then their Absolute line. It's not even an Elseworld. It's a completely different take on the character, and I think this is going to have its own continuity and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
it's in for the long run, and you can say whatever you want about Scott Snyder, but that fucking guy could write. He's done some really great stuff. And this whole launch of, him doing Absolute Batman and the other titles coming after it, been spot on.
The great thing is that guys like Snyder and Nick Dragata, I mean, they're also indie comic guys. We've reviewed Scott Snyder stuff because he took 3 years off from the big two.
Yeah, I read Reborn of his. That was fantastic.
Yeah. And, but what's really interesting though about this week, because there was a lot more books that than we can pick up and digest and review for you folks. But this week I only had 1 book from the big two that I picked up out of all the books I picked up this week.
I don't even think I had one.
Interesting. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Dude, I had not one
Yeah.
from the big two. So there you go. Well, so I'm going to say Transformers because it's IP, but it's under Image, under Skybound, and because it's hooked up into the Energon verse, which includes Void Rivals. So
Yes.
there goes the connection to Indie. Assholes.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, let's rock and roll. How about so we're going into our comic reviews. Why
Yeah.
don't you get us started with your first book?
So I'm going to start with a book from Boom Studios. I love that the exclamation point is there. I have to honor that. It is called Neighborhood Watch. And this is written by Sarah Gailey, illustrated by Haining, colored by Rebecca Nolte, lettered by Jody Troutman, and it is designed by Madison Goyette, edited by Elizabeth Brie, and editor-in-chief is Andy Schmidt. And this was a lot of fun. This was really cool.
I love that cover. What's up, Ezra?
Hey, what's up? I know that kid. Hey, Ezra. And this is really neat. So I'm just like, right away on the first page, you basically get, I don't know if you can, you get a body.
Dude, that's gruesome.
You don't see who the body is. You have a joint word balloon, right? You see the arrows going in two directions.
Yep.
What it do to her. So right away, you're starting off with this mystery. But this mystery is kind of neat because this revolves around two communities, one called Willow Haven and the other called Open Arms. And Willow Haven, you can see, is very much like your suburban, idyllic suburban, but it looks very clean, very straight.
Yep.
And then you got more to your hippie communal aspect going over there in Open Arms. And so these two.
Don't tell me this is like the Capulets and the Montagues.
It's not necessarily, okay? But these are neighboring communities, okay? And the narrative technique that is used is that you are shown basically in a sort of, and I like this kind of technique too. You're doing it in you have a 2-page. So you're continuing that. On one side, you have the HOA meeting for Willow Haven, and then you have the community gathering, meeting for Open Arms, right? So you see how these two communities operate and how these meetings go and who these people are that are in these communities.
Is the whole book that way?
So the first half of the book is that way.
That's pretty cool. So that's really better than a flip book.
It's kind of neat. It's a side-by-side book, right?
Right.
So it's really neat to do that comparison and to go back and forth like that. Very much like a scene transition, right? Between two narratives in a show. And so what's really neat is you get to know these characters and you get to kind of know a little bit of what's going on and a little bit of who's sleeping with who in this one community and who's mad at the other person in this other community. And both the communities have very strict sort of HOA leaders or commune leader, right? And it's a very interesting technique where you don't see that person's face in both of these scenarios. And then both of them go missing. And then two characters who are looking for these folks. Yes, loved that first half. But I also like where I'm getting to is how in the second half of the book, Black Collar, is that how it gets, or Ezra, how it gets, it combines because you have two characters searching for these missing heads of the communities. They find a secret tunnel that connects the two communities underground.
Oh.
And that is where they find this body that we see on the first page. And with that, towards the end, because I'm not going to show you the back half of the book, but you get a reveal as to who that person is, who the two heads of these communities are, and then it sort of opens up this sort of, okay, we're going to find out who did this, but we're going to do this on our terms. We're not just going to go right to the police and say what's going on here. We're going to do this our way with these two different members from the two different communities of so very opposite ends of the class structure, spectrum, coming in and deciding to solve this because they were close to the heads of these communities.
Gotcha.
So really neat stuff. It reminds me, comic book wise, a little bit of Where Monsters Lie, right?
Yep, yep, yep.
The gated community for serial
Serial
killers and all
killers.
the rules that they had to react to and obey. But also has a dash of like Desperate Housewives. It was a show I never saw, but I know the aesthetic of it, right?
Mm.
Especially with that sort of suburban white collar community aspect of it, as well as how they what are they doing behind closed doors aspect of it as well. So I thought this was really cool. It says actually, is this the one that did it? Yeah, this says right in the indicia it is a 5-issue miniseries.
Okay.
So that's a great number of issues for a mini. I really thought this was a really fun opening salvo. Again, yeah, the juxtaposition in the first half of the two different communities, and then how it kind of comes together like you're in that underground tunnel in the back half is great. The art is really neat. It's sort of very little bit of like a Mirka Andolfo, but with a thicker line.
Oh yeah.
Quasi manga, but
It's also Dotson.
yeah, little Dotson-y, and it does a good job of being light as it deals with the seriousness of the situation of what's going on. So it's not.
Do we know if it's a serial killer that they're looking for?
We don't
know.
This is
just a one-time thing.
We don't know what it is. We don't know who did it. We don't know why. We only know a reveal of a mystery that is planted at the beginning concerning the two community leaders.
So the two, fantastic. All right, sounds interesting.
It was really good. It was really neat. Again, it looks like it's going to be kind of fun to see how this plays out as these two, women try to figure out what happened hopefully, and I think they hope the most sneakily and subtle way possible. But I think it's all going to kind of just blow up and get a little zany and probably get a little more bloody, and then we'll see what's standing at the end.
Well, all right, guys. Well, you heard it. So from Boom Studios, check it out. Neighborhood Watch, a commitment of 5 issues. That's not too bad. So pick it up. All right, my turn. Boom, mine. Pretty Hate Machine. Really excited about this because Tim Seeley is one of my favorite writers, and he's one half of the writing team for this particular book. Pretty Hate Machine is published by Mad Cave. So writers are Ryan Onan and Tim Seeley. Artist is Paolo Armitano. Armitano, I believe. Colorist is Roman Stevens, and then lettered by Dave Sharp. Okay, so the aesthetics, the creative team on this, dude, this book is just really, really awesome to look at. It has that scratchy art that I like, so it's not clean finished. Let me see. It reminds me almost of what is it, Wes Craig art, where it's kind of scratchy. Some of it is subjective and stuff like that. Just really cool stuff. And let me show you one part here before I get into the story, because it's probably the most freaking revealing. You see the tree? Just 3 dead bodies just hanging there, decapitated and legless, and the blood is just dripping from the bottom of each one of the bodies. Dude, awesome. So this book reminded me a little bit of like, let's say, Evil Ernie, Edward Scissorhands, and Stranger Things, all kind of wrapped up into one if I had to like put them in a genre. So basically you open up with these 3 kids who are riding a bike. What I liked about the writing in this particular book was the fact that they were writing like 16-year-olds would talk to each other when they're by themselves on a bike in the 80s. Just calling each other retards and gay and shit and stuff like that, and not manning up and having a vagina for not doing stuff. So I found it a little bit comical in the very beginning. So they're teasing each other, teasing this one kid. They're riding a bike. They're actually riding towards a funeral of one of their friends' father who's passed away. And as they're riding towards the funeral, they're passing the actual bridge where he fell off of. So right now, from what I understand, it's been deemed an accident, but later on stuff happens. And so while they're doing that, they see a light across the bridge. The boys tease the one kid. I think his name is Juno or June. Yeah, June. And say, come on, let's go check it out before we get over there. They end up going over there. Those 3 bodies that I showed you were actually their bodies. So it was their bodies, and then to the side was their decapitated heads with the rest of their body parts spelling out the word Thomas, which is their friend. So they needed to go get their friend or whatever to show them. So basically, what you have is this emo kid is at the funeral. His name is Thomas. These kids come and tell him what they saw. They're freaking out. He says, "Okay, cool. I want to go see." They take him back. Nothing is there. The kids leave because he wants to be by himself because he's all sad about his dad. He does his emo thing and just starts crying by himself. And then all of a sudden, this demon with like, if you look on the cover right there, he fucking has fingers as blades. So he's Freddy Krueger slash Edward Scissorhands. He comes out of nowhere. There's no explanation for him at all, other than the fact that he's just like there to help him solve his father's murder for some reason. Don't know. And then a couple of things happen. He goes, he's actually on his way back home. He gets picked up by a cop to bring him back to his home. And then a couple of things happen that are grotesque that let you know that this demon is with this kid right now who's called Luther for some reason. Maybe it's some kind of incarnation of Lucifer. But it was really short. You've got a lot, but you're missing a lot. So it left me wanting more of the story. Not necessarily that I feel anything for the characters, because I think there wasn't enough in it to really, understand their motivations or connect to them in any way. We don't know this demon, what their plot is or what their ploy is, or their attachment to this kid or whatever it is. So there was a lot of questions that were left at the very end. This is probably one of those comics where either I would have liked a double-sized comic or a letter column at the end, kind of explaining where the idea of the story came and where it might possibly go to hang on for the ride. So this is one of those books where I would say, okay, you know what? I really liked it. I enjoyed it. I think I'm probably going to enjoy it more as a trade so I can read it all the way through. I'm pretty sure it's a mini because it's Mad Cave. So it's probably going to end up being about 5 or 6 issues. Like I said, the creative team on it, from the art to the writing, really great. I think there wasn't enough to grab me and say, hey, come, especially with the amount of content that we read each week. There's certain things that pop out there. Like when I see them on a shelf, I'm like, oh shit, I got to read that because I remember that last week kind of thing. So this is probably one that I'm going to hold out on the trade. But if you're a fan of like the horror genre, if you like Edward Scissorhands, Stranger Things, Evil Ernie kind of type stuff, this will probably definitely be right up your alley. So really great writing. Art was great. Definitely check it out. Pretty Hate Machine from Mad Cave Studios.
And is there any sort of like reference to the Nine Inch Nails album at all, or is it
no?
None
that I saw.
Yeah.
So it's just pretty much straightforward antics of 60-year-olds making fun of each other, and then a demon coming out of nowhere.
And it does take place in like what you said, the 80s or 90s?
No.
Oh, it is contemporary.
I think it's contemporary.
It just has that feel to it.
It just has that feel of, like the kids from Stranger Things and
Yeah.
sort of like the underworld of demons and stuff. The Head with Scissorhands obviously is just the reference to Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
It could be just as well as Freddy Krueger and stuff like that. It's just really freaky, especially the art inside, the way they draw the hand and how the finger is stopped and a blade is just coming out of it.
I like
and
that.
It's not the same for each finger. Like
Okay.
some of them had the fingers 3/4 and a blade coming out of it. Some of them like only an inch and then coming out of it. So
yeah.
Pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
I see that on the cover. It is. I like that how it is coming. It's because Freddy was famously wears the glove, except for the second Nightmare on Elm Street movie, where he actually like grows inside the guy, and then the blades do come out of the fingers. That's what that reminds me of. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. And then sort of like the Evil Ernie stuff is sort of like how he looks.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
And even how he acts and stuff like that a little bit, the way he's written kind of reminded me of
Which
Evil
is
Ernie.
funny because his mouth is almost like the mask that Erica Slaughter wears from Something Is Killing the Children. That's kind of neat.
Yeah. So there's a lot of influence there. So, but it's cool. Check it out. Pretty Hate Machine from Mad Cave. All right, you're up again.
All right, we're gonna continue with the spooky vibes. So I have a book from Oni, one of my favorite publishers. This is called Estuary, a Ghost Story. This is written by David D.B. Andre and Tim Daniel, illustrated by Man House, colored by Steve Cannon, lettered by Taylor Esposito, edited by Bess Polaris, assistant editor Azat Sayadi, and designed by Second Rocket. And So this one's kind of neat. This begins with a car driving around the California coast. All right.
Yep.
And then, oh no, the car bursts into flames and it drives off the bridge. Oh man, we begin with a car crash. So you know
Oh, I like
nothing's
that.
good. You know nothing's good going to happen from that. Yeah, really, really captivating 2-page spread right at the beginning of there. And then we follow this woman who is sort of a lapsed Catholic, and she is hired by this nun.
A lapsed Catholic?
She's a
What's a
lapsed
lapsed
Catholic.
Catholic?
You know, so basically it is a big part of the dialogue at the beginning, because she's having this conversation with the nun, who has hired her to find that wreckage that we saw at the beginning, because she's a marine archaeologist, right? And so this church is sort of right on the coast of California, and so that's where this car went down. And so there's a nun at this church that wants to find this wreckage, and she hires this woman. And so you sort of catch up with the woman because she's at the church and she's trying to pray. And
Wait,
the
wait,
nun,
wait, 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 wait. I need to understand this a little bit more.
yeah.
So, how do you find a marine archaeologist? Do
Oh,
you
well,
know them, or do you look them up in the yellow
I
pages?
think she must have looked her up on the internet now these days. But yeah, I think, that's funny. If it was mentioned, I kind of breezed through it. There is a moment, a revelation that the lead character does have towards the end of the first issue, where she does realize she doesn't remember the first time she ever met this nun. So that's a really interesting question. But yeah, because basically she is hired to find this wreckage. Now, of course, she doesn't have a boat, so she hires a guy with a boat who usually takes people out fishing, and he's like, oh, I'd love to help you because I know about this story of this car or whatever. Like, so this is sort of a quest for him as well.
Right.
But when we first see the woman, the marine archaeologist, and she's trying to pray in this church, and that nun who hired her kind of is watching her, and she goes, oh, I noticed you your prayer didn't take, you were kind of going through the motions, but you didn't seem like it was there. And she's like, the whole conversation about, yeah, her parents were very, very Catholic, very, very devout. She tried to follow in their footsteps, but her path was elsewhere. And so it's sort of like what she does now is sort of her rebellion against what her parents wanted for her, or what they believed in her. So almost this insinuation that, like, and in fact, I almost thought at first that this woman was part of the seminary, was part of you tried being a nun for a while. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I was reading something in there that was very subtextually deeply in there, or if that was just sort of like a vibe a feeling I was getting. So basically, most of this issue, though, is spent with her on the boat with the boat captain that she hires, and it's all very flirtatious with them. Mm-hmm. She's kind of asking him out on a date, but he's like, well, I don't necessarily date my clients, but most of my clients are middle-aged men who are just out fishing for the weekend. Maybe I'll make an exception. And he's like, wait, did you actually ask me out? She's like, not yet. So there's this whole thing of like, eventually it's like, okay, let's find this wreckage as soon as possible so we can start dating, right? Because that attraction is very intense and palpable in this first issue.
It's a small boat. It's in the middle of the ocean. They're the only two.
Yeah, and there's sort of a little bit of a kinship that grows between them, which is kind of neat. I don't trust it. I don't trust anything that's going on in here. It reminds me a lot of a show that we just finished on Netflix called Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen, where it is very moody and dark and quietly intense, especially when you do go underwater and what happens to her when she's underwater for the first time looking for this wreckage and what she does encounter under there. And so it's definitely a mini series. It's definitely a really cool start. There's a lot of like spooky lore about the lady in lace that haunts the church, and how the church is surviving by giving tours to Instagram influencers and things like that. And they have a nun who teaches yoga classes. Like, it's kind of, so it's an interesting juxtaposition, like, where this woman's trying to pray, and then all of a sudden this nun comes through with this tour on their way to do the yoga thing, you know, like
So let me ask you a question. What's the correlation between the car crash and is it a nunnery
Yeah, so
or a church?
we don't know. We don't know. It's a church that does how it's a nunnery and a church kind of the whole thing, right? And that is now tours for it, you know, people who want to do selfies at this, you know, coastal church locale and
Right.
be seen doing yoga there and whatnot. So we don't know. We don't know why the nun hired her specifically
Hmm.
to find this wreckage. But it is something that is part of the lore, I think, of this area. Since, like I said, since the guy who captains the ship, he's aware of the backstory and all that. So it's going to be interesting to see, sort of like, is this a collective secret on this coastal town? Who's keeping the secret? Is she
Mhm.
an interloper? Is she a key figure in this whole you
Yeah.
know,
And was the
mess?
person in
Or
the car running away from the church?
yeah, who yeah, so that's all these mysteries that are laid out, and I think it's really cool, and I'm hoping, I feel that they're going to get revealed as we go. Definitely think it's going to be a mini. I don't see much mileage as far as making this an ongoing. So I'm
Right.
guessing we're at the 4 to 6 issue range, probably another 5 issue. But I thought it was a really cool opening. You know, very Man House's art is really neat. You know, very spooky and moody. That's
Oh
like
yeah.
that's in the graveyard, you know, where they're talking. The underwater stuff, I think, is done really well. You know, it just really gives you that, you know, a little jock esque.
Yeah. Simon
Um,
as well. Simon Skrzansky.
Kudransky, yeah,
Yeah.
but just that underwater claustrophobic vibe is there. And you know, the dialogue stuff, it's, you know, there's definitely heavy dialogue in all three of the books that I read this week,
Right.
the art really makes it breeze
Yeah. Looks
through.
cool.
Yeah, so
Cool.
it's some really good stuff.
All right.
Estuary, a ghost story
All right. From Oni Press.
from
All right.
Oni Press.
Horror fans, go get it. Go get it. All right. My turn. All right. Book number 3. I know you guys are going to give me shit. This is not, they're IPs, but dude, I grew up on both of these. So Thundercat Silverhawks is Dynamite's, I guess, mega event that's going on. It's going to be across 15 issues, across 3 titles. So Thundercats, I think Dynamite came out with it almost 2 years now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, it's a while. And it's been great. I dropped it earlier on because I was shifting over to trades because we were reading so much. But then this was coming up, and Thundercats, mid 80s, 85, ran for 4 seasons. I saw every single episode. Silverhawks came out a year after that, and sort of it was supposed to be like the Thundercats of space. Fucking fantastic. I think it went 65 episodes, but only 1 season. We needed more of that. So you take two of my favorite shows from the 80s, you put them together and put them in a comic, and you think I'm not going to read it? F off. So we got this one. This is going to be the main title, the Thundercats and Silverhawks. Then you also have the Munra title that's coming out. So we get an origin of Mumra. He gets his own book. It's tied into this event that's going on. And then there's another one that's called Thunderhawks, which is Thundercats in the future that are mixed with Silverhawk technology. Pretty cool stuff. So they're going to all intertwine with one another. This is the main book. I'm pretty sure, hopefully, you should be able to read the main book only if you don't want to read the other stuff to be able to still get the entire story. I did read this. This left me a little bit like the book that I read previously, The Pretty Hate Machine, where I just wanted more. It wasn't enough in here. So if you got to read the preview in I forgot where it was in. There was a preview for this one of the books. Then you got a little bit of the stories of that. But basically you have these two universes together. You've got what is it called? Hawkhaven is actually orbiting Third Earth, and Panthro is in there. I'm not sure if this was addressed in the main book. It almost feels like some of this stuff was already addressed. I don't know if it's in the main line because I'm not up to speed on that yet. I hope it's not because I think that's completely different from this. But it almost feels like there's something that came before this. Maybe it's going to get revealed as we go through. But Panthro is in at Hulk Haven. There's nobody there, and he's trying to, I guess, get to know the ship itself and trying to get information out of it. He has what were the little they were the Bilbo bears, right? The little robot bears that didn't say anything, but they understood what they were saying. They would
Yeah.
just go beep boop, and then all of a sudden they knew exactly what they were saying. He has one of those. They were the like the handy bears. They're the ones that actually repaired stuff and all that stuff. Like so, he has one of those. He's talking to him, and then it kind of flipped back and forth on Third Earth. You have Lionel, Shatara, and Tiger talking, and then basically there there's a whole bunch of stuff that's going on, and then Lionel knows what's happening. So there's Bengali, who's been ousted out. He's been kicked out of the Thundercats for whatever he's done in the past. Then you have Wily Cat, and Calica. They're on their own mission, doing something for the Thundercats as well. And then you have Panthro up in space. Then you have something happen with Hawk Haven, where there's incoming. I don't want. There's something that's incoming. The space station recognizes it, but Panthro can't access anything of it because the space station doesn't let Panthro access anything. So he's trying to break in, can't break in. Hawkhaven is secure from Panthro. So what we get is Chromium, who's a new Silverhawk. He wasn't part of the original series. I think he was created in Thundercats specifically for the comics. He comes in and he finds Bengali. They get into a tiff back and forth because I think they're considered space cops now, Silverhawks. So they're checking on this planet. They have jurisdiction over this entire area. We've not seen them forever, so I guess this is sort of like they just came out of nowhere. So him and Bengali get into a fight because he's resisting. The other guy is an a-hole. He's written like an a-hole. And Bengali tears him in half, which is fantastic. So I'm going to tell you this right now. If this is one of those comics where you love characters, don't get used to them because they all die, which is fantastic. So yeah, so there's a scuffle there, and then all of a sudden it pings, and then all of a sudden we get Quicksilver and the Copper Kid. They come in. Those are the main two guys. Now, if you saw the cartoon back in the 80s, we know that Copper Kid did not talk. He only made sounds. He would whistle and all the stuff make sounds. And then the Silverhawks knew exactly what he was saying. In this comic, he talks, but he doesn't talk with full sentences. They're just single words, which I think is it's cool. I think it would have been better if they would have put the asterisk and said, translate it from, because I believe his world is mime world, translate it from mime, so you would know that he was whistling or whatever it was. He wasn't talking, but they didn't do that. So they did the next best thing, which is just keep it simplified. So basically, what you have here is you have the Thundercats and the Silverhawks meeting for the first time, and it's not going well. I will not tell you what happens to Quicksilver, but it is not good either. So yeah, so there's this scuffle of the Silverhawks and the Thundercats finally meeting. We have another area of the Wily Cat, looking for Mumra for some reason, and the ghost of Jaga's with them as well. Now, Jaga, from what I understand, has also been ousted by Lionel. He's not allowed to come around, but he's a ghost, so he can do whatever he wants to do. So it's a really good setup of these two particular worlds coming together, but they clash right away. And I don't know how they're going to move forward with de-escalating what's already gone on. We already had some mutants come, the vultures come in and attack, and that kind of de-escalated what was going on with Bengali. And then Lino showing up at the very end saying, "Hey, he's a Thundercat. You can't mess with him," and that's kind of how it ends. If you know the characters, if you know the lore, you know the story, this fits in right where we watch the cartoon and stuff like that. If you're reading the current run of Thundercats, it's probably going to be right up your alley as well. If you're not familiar with it, I'll say this is a great jumping on point because this is going to be its own thing for 15 issues across 3 comics. So if you're looking for something new and want to jump on, that's sort of like that superhero trope, and you got space intergalactic cops which is what they consider now Silverhawks, and you got these cat-like beings on Third Earth. Yeah, really cool. I'm excited. I definitely want to read the whole thing. When this comes out as a collected edition, I'm probably going to be the first one online to get it. It's written. Oh, I didn't even do the creative team. Um, this one is Declan Shalvey, so he's writing it and he's drawing it, which is fantastic. His colors by Igor Monti, lettered by Jeff Eckleberry. So he's doing pretty much, I think, this whole series. So in April, I'm just going to read it off real quick. April, you got Thundercat Silverhawks #1, which is this. Mumra, the Ever Living #1, and then Thundercat Silverhawks, Thunderhawks, all in April. And then from there, each month you're going to get an issue of each one of those comics as well. Yeah, I'm excited. I know I didn't explain it well, but it was because of my excitement. So enjoy, guys. The only thing, like I said, the only downside is that it wasn't enough. I think it's like maybe 20 pages, so I would have appreciated 20 more pages of the story for the first issue. But yeah, Dynamite, whatever they've been doing over the last 3 to 4 years with just the IP that they've been bringing on board. I mean, they got Terminator, they got Space Ghost, you got the Hanna-Barbera collection, you've got Silverhawks, you've got Thundercats. The only thing that's coming out next that I'm really excited for, but it's under Image, is Mask.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got all these 80s cartoons, and that Mask is actually going under the Energon verse.
Mm-hmm.
So fucking Robert Kirkman is just building a universe that is just going to be unbelievable. So yes, excited. Check it out, Thundercat Silverhawks. I'm in it for the long run.
Nice.
All right, you got one more.
All right, last one. This is from, basically a weekly staple now, it seems. Ignition Press. It's called Everyone Loves a Jewel Thief. This.
Wait, most importantly, does it have the numbers in the back?
Oh yeah, I was gonna get to that. We'll do the credits and then we'll get to that. So yeah, so this is written by Aaron Campbell and Tim Seeley, making another appearance on the show
Nice.
this week. It is illustrated by Aaron Campbell, colored by Jordi Belair, lettered by And World Design, edited by Maggie Howell, book and logo designed by Scott Newman. And and then for those keeping track at home, this specific copy has a stamped number of 2265. Again, that number is 2265 for this specific copy of Everyone Loves a Jewel Thief #1 by Ignition Press. So
okay, all right. So I just got information. Breaking news. All right,
breaking news. Yeah.
Right, so inside the white box, printed number.
Yes.
That number is unique to your individual copy of the comic.
Yes.
No other comic has the same number, and that number ties directly to the total print run of that particular cover.
Okay.
So that's your print run cover number.
Interesting. So in theory, these are being printed out in sequence. I've not taken a pile of them to look and see if they're being shipped in sequence.
They're not.
Ah.
The number sequence is randomized during actual prior and printing process. So say they're printing 10,000, then they're just randomly assigning a number
because they have 10, that 000. They set that number and then that's funny. So where did you find? Is this on their website? Did you finally find it on their website?
No. Whenever you type something as a prompt, it could be bullshit, but it's what it came up as Ignition Press.
Interesting. Okay.
Logic.
So there's nothing we can do with this number. Just if I ever lose my copy of an Ignition Press book, yes. I'll go to my notebook of serial numbers and be like, no, that's my copy. If I see somebody selling, I'll be like, you stole, because that's my 2265 of.
There's only one copy of that. That's it. So in theory, every single copy of this issue is unique.
And therefore a collector's item.
That's it, yes.
Oh my God.
You got 10,000 copies of unique items. Thank you, Ignition Press.
Yeah, thank you for
awesome.
Yeah, that is fun. So yeah, it's interesting. Nobody else is doing this that I know, but that's good on them, I guess. Jamie S. Rich, you got us talking about this as a running bit now, I think, since we've been talking about your company. So good job. So yeah, so I thought this was great. This is so all three books had are one of my favorite types of stories, right? ordinary people in extraordinary situations. And so Neighborhood Watch, it's a murder mystery, class structure satire thing. Estuary, it's a supernatural ghost story. I really don't trust anybody that this person's coming in contact with. So that's kind of cool. But they're like they're characters. They play into some archetypes a little bit and maybe even some stereotypes, but they're actual people like going through these extraordinary situations. And I think that's really cool. They're grounded, and then it just makes the weirdness pop. And this is no different. This is basically dirtbag Ocean's 11. So what you have is a struggling novelist who is an adjunct professor at a university, but he has not published anything in years. And it's one of those situations where on the same day, he gets another rejection for his new book. No one wants to publish it. He gets let go from his adjunct professor writing class position at the university because he hasn't published anything in a very long time, and they can't keep putting him up there as a published author if he hasn't published anything in a long time. So loses his job, and then his girlfriend decides to break up with him. While she's on her shift at the ER and there's a guy dying in the background, she's on the phone breaking up with this guy. So this guy has a sort of this backup plan. Instead of like dusting off an old manuscript, he's going to get together with his old D&D buddies, and they're going to rob a very priceless jewel from this woman who lives in the town, who is apparently very rich, and like displays this jewel in the second floor window of her house, for all to see. So he says, I have a plan. We're going to steal this diamond. And then once I know we got away with it, I'm going to confess to it. And then I'm going to write the book about the crime that I committed and how I turned myself in. And then I'll take you guys, all my friends, and you're going to be the character. You're going to be the color of this story, right? Now, interesting idea. He only tells one of his crew the whole plan. The other guys are just along for the ride because they want to rob stuff, because they're all scumbags. They're all dirtbags, these guys in this town. It's sort of like if the Stranger Kids things grew up and they were just all failures.
Okay.
That they just think they were losers in life after all that they've been through. So it's really...
Wait, so let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So what would happen to the diamond after he got it?
He's just gonna, I guess he's gonna, here you go. I stole it. Here's the diamond. I give it back. Okay. I give it back. They're
not going to boost it.
I don't think they're going to try and sell it. He's doing this just so he can write the book, so he could get published again. It's actually really brilliant.
But he has the idea. Why not just write the book?
Because that's not enough. It has to be real. So it's brilliant in its desperation. Like it's so good in that hook. That's and mad. So you have a framing sequence that's basically these two cops, interviewing. There's 6 people involved, right? And you have a framing sequence of 2 cops interviewing 3 of the 6 characters involved that we've seen. And the cops are great because there's one cop who's very sort of like strict and by the numbers, and then there's this other cop who just says whatever is on her mind and sort of just kind of cuts through some of the BS, which is really, really kind of funny how she's like, corrects the other cop because he refers to the guy as Chad, and she's like, no, he's not Chad, he's Scott now. It's an author thing. He's a published author, so now everyone knows him as Scott. Like, and he like looks at her, and she's like, I'm just saying, I'm getting the facts straight. I'm a detective.
She's one of those.
So she's one of those. So it's really, but like very snarky, right? There's a lot of like a Fargo-esque snarkiness and sarcasm to a lot of the dialogue and interactions. And so we basically intercut between these police room interviews with the author's ex-girlfriend, and two of the accomplices. Okay. So aside from the author, there is his best friend, who the dungeon master when they were kids, who is the only one that he tells the full story to. Everyone else just thinks, like I said. And then the sixth person that we meet is this stripper who just got fired for stealing from the strip joint that she works in. But the guy who brings her in, he goes, "That she's a thief. She got away with stealing from the strip club. Well, until today, but she got away with it. So she's a thief." And so she kind of comes in all femme fatale, like,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, you basically have your dirtbag Ocean's 11. Even though, as far as the crime goes, it looks like there's 5 of them. The 6th character being the ex-girlfriend, but she's kind of there for the context of, okay, when did you break up with him? Why? And I was tired of his childish games and things like that. So right away, you know by the end of this first issue, this guy had this insane plot. He planned it out to what he thought was to the letter. It went wrong. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And apparently, of the 6 characters, we've only seen 3 of them being interviewed in the present day by the police.
Uh-huh.
One of the 3, or possibly a 4th character we haven't seen yet, apparently is sealed inside a 50-gallon metal drum.
Oh my gosh.
Drum. So it went that bad.
Okay.
so I loved it. I thought it was great. The characters are just so weird and wrong and unsavory that they're likable. You kind of want to see, again, I think this is a mini. I don't think it doesn't have the weight for an ongoing. I want to see how this all goes wrong. I want to know who's in the drum. I want to know where, what happened to these people, because like when you see these guys in the interview room, like one guy, Jacob Bowles, but he says it's Balls. It's pronounced Jacob's Bowles, as the one cop corrects. He's all beat up. He's all beat up, in the interview room. The other guy, he's like in a wheelchair and his eye is all messed up. So like something really bad happened. And
so we didn't see them doing a crime. This is
all the setup. Yeah. So we see the post-crime interview with the police, and then we see the plan, the building, the coming up with the idea of, okay, we're going to do this crime. So we have to see the plan. We got to see how it shakes down, and we got to see who's in that drum. And I am along for the ride. I think it's fantastic. Aaron Campbell's art is great. Again, with these interview scenes, it's really, very, again, we talked about Bendis earlier. This kind of has a Bendis pacing, especially.
And I love that it has traditional panels in it too.
Traditional panels. There's this great moment where Scott, the author, is sitting there at the table at the bar with what is now his heist team.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And then if you see below there, he's like imagining them as their D&D characters from when they were kids.
Cool. Yeah.
So it's sort of like that hook to it is really neat. Yep. And I thought the characters are great. I thought the situation was really cool. It's illustrated really well. Again, something that I think there's I think a hope to turn this into a show or a movie, especially in the way that the interrogation scenes are, because it's like panel to panel, different person being integrated, but the story is flowing. So you're building this sort of story through these interviews that are happening at different times, but they're all informing everything else. So
nice.
On the page, it was worth a second reading just to kind of get all of that and flow and context. If it was, I think, a filmed effort, I think because you have more distinct actor faces and voices, it would be a little clearer in that respect. But that's not even a hang up at all. I always like when a comic, when I like a comic enough that I kind of want to give it another quick once over.
Yeah, those are the best.
So everyone loves a Jewel Thief, another winner from Ignition. This week was a great week. I loved all 3 books for those reasons I said before. A lot of times I'll read these number ones and I won't always go back. I might wait for it to. I might trade wait, or a couple of them I do still pick up. All three of these again. I'm in on all three of these. I
Nice.
really
Okay.
loved all three of them.
Yeah, it was a good week. Really, really, really good week. All right, so there you have it, guys. You got 5 books that we definitely read this week. You got Estuary, A Ghost Story from Oni Press. Check that one out. You got Everyone Loves a Jewel Thief from Ignition Press. Now we know what those numbers mean on the back. Thank you, Ignition Press. You got Neighborhood Watch from Boom Studios. You've got Pretty Hate Machine from Matt Cave. And one that I'm all in on, Thundercat Silverhawks from Dynamite. Yeah, really, really good selection this week. So definitely visit your local comic shop and pick some up. All right, kiddos, that's all that we have for you this week. So listen, we will be here now every Thursday live at 6 p.m. So that is a day after New Comic Book Day with fresh comics from that particular week, picking them up off the shelves and giving out 2 cents and shout outs to all the indie community out there. So if you like what you heard, subscribe to the podcast. If you want to be on the podcast, you're a creator, you have something that you want to promote, you yourself, your project, go to indiecreatorcomics.com, go to the podcast forum, fill it out. John and I would love to have you on. We have some guests lined up over the next couple of weeks, so we're really looking forward to that. Social media, yeah, we're everywhere. Indie Creator Comics, just check them out and we're all good. Thank you, John. All good stuff there, bro. And then last but not least, please, please, please support your local comic shop, because without them, we would not be able to do what we love to do, and that is read comics. John, where do you get your comics from?
Well, I get my comics at The Joker's Child in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. The Joker's Child, where the fun never stops. And I actually have a bit of an announcement here. I did recently lose my copy of Just Brutal #1 from Ignition Press. It's got the number 2552 stamped on the back. So if you find it, bring it on over to The Joker's Child, where you can get your copy of an Ignition Comics Press book with its own individual stamped serial number on the back, so you'll never lose track of it. If you can't get to The Joker's Child, check out your Google machine to find your local comic shop. If they don't carry Ignition Press comics with those specialized serial numbers on the back, you demand that they do. But otherwise, folks, you can catch us at The Joker's Child every day that we're open, where you'll have interactions with great folks like Ezra or John. Thank you guys for commenting on here. And I just want to give a shout out to Bootlegger and Quentin as well for also commenting. We love that you guys are watching. We love that you're paying attention. Please, please, please patronize your local comic shop.
Absolutely. All right, guys, until next time, we want to thank you for joining us on the Indie Creator Comic Podcast, where we are all about independent comics.